mulberry bush, the mulberry bush, the mulberry bush. Here we go round the shadows, truth, so early in the morning.
I need to tell you about the morning I realized I was living inside this nursery rhyme. I was 32 standing in my kitchen at 6:47 a.m. making the same breakfast I'd made every weekday for the past 3 years. Steel-cut oats with blueberries and a drizzle of honey that I measured out with the precision of a pharmacist. As I stirred the pot in exactly 17 clockwise circles, yes, I counted, my brain started playing this tune. Here we go round the mulberry bush, the mulberry bush, the mulberry bush. And I froze, spoon halfway to my mouth, because I suddenly saw my entire life as one giant mulberry bush that I'd been circling for years without ever questioning why. Wake up at 6:30. Oatmeal. 17 circles. Check emails. Commute. Work. Lunch at the same desk. More work. Commute. Dinner. Netflix. Bed. Repeat. 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 Every day a slight variation on the same theme, like I was stuck in some kind of adult-sized playpen, going through the motions of living without ever asking if any of it actually mattered. That's when it hit me. This isn't just a children's game about morning routines. This is a song about the soul-crushing nature of mindless repetition. And we teach it to kids like it's something to aspire to. What the actual hell? Before we dive into the psychological meat of this thing, let me blow your mind with where this rhyme actually comes from. Because trust me, once you know the backstory, you'll never hear it the same way again. Picture this. It's the 19th century, and you're an inmate at Wakefield Prison in Yorkshire, England. Your day starts before dawn in a cold, damp cell that smells like despair and questionable hygiene. The guards march you out to the prison yard, where there's a solitary mulberry bush, probably the only living thing in that whole concrete hellscape. Your morning exercise consists of walking in circles around this bush with all the other prisoners, in complete silence, for exactly 1 hour. No talking, no deviation from the path, just endless, mindless circling while you think about what choices led you to this moment and wonder if you'll ever see the outside world again. The various verses about washing clothes, cleaning the house, and doing daily chores, those weren't cheerful songs about domestic life. They were the actual prison labor schedule, sung by inmates to mark the passage of time and maintain some shred of sanity in a system designed to break their spirits through mind-numbing repetition. So when little Victorian children sang this song, they weren't celebrating the joy of routine. They were unconsciously rehearsing the rhythm of institutional control, learning that life consists of doing the same meaningless tasks over and over until you die. And somehow, we've kept singing it. Generation after generation, we've passed down this prison song as if it were a cheerful ditty about the pleasures of domestic routine. I can't decide if that's tragically ironic or just plain tragic. Here's what makes this rhyme pure shadow work gold. Most of us are living our lives as if we're still circling that mulberry bush, but we're so deep in the pattern that we can't see it anymore. We wake up to the same alarm, brush our teeth in the same order, take the same route to work, complain about the same things to the same people, come home to the same entertainment, go to bed at the same time, and then wake up and do it all again. We call it being responsible or having a routine, but really, we're just prisoners who forgot we have the keys. And here's the really insidious part. We defend this mindless repetition like it's a virtue. We shame people who question the system, who want to try different paths, who refuse to keep circling the same damn bush. We call them irresponsible, unrealistic, childish. We act like the prison yard is the only place to be, and anyone who wants to leave is just being difficult. This is the shadow of the sleepwalker, and friends, we've all got it. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really sit with this. How much of your daily routine is actually yours? How much of what you do every day is because you chose it, versus because someone else told you it was the right way to live? I'm talking about the job you stay in because it's practical, even though it slowly drains your soul. The relationship patterns you repeat because they're familiar, even when they don't actually make you happy. The social obligations you fulfill because you're supposed to, even when they feel like punishment. The morning routine, the work schedule, the weekend plans, the holiday traditions, the life milestones you're supposed to hit by certain ages. How much of it is really about what you want? And how much is just you walking in circles around someone else's mulberry bush? Here's the shadow part. We often don't even realize we're doing it. We've been walking the same path for so long that we've worn grooves in our neural pathways. The routine becomes automatic, unconscious, invisible. We mistake familiarity for happiness, and we mistake habit for choice. And when someone suggests we could leave the bush, could walk in a different direction, could create our own path, we panic. Because if we're not walking in circles around the mulberry bush, who are we? What are we supposed to do? How do we know we're doing life right? This is where it gets really interesting from a psychological perspective. Because the mulberry bush isn't just about external routine. It's about the internal prison we create to avoid the terrifying freedom of actually making choices. Think about it. As long as you're following the prescribed path, you never have to face the possibility that you might choose wrong. As long as you're doing what everyone else is doing, you never have to take full responsibility for your life. As long as you're walking in circles, you never have to face the vast, uncertain landscape that exists beyond the prison yard. The shadow of the sleepwalker isn't just about being unconscious. It's about choosing unconsciousness because consciousness is fucking scary. When you wake up and realize you're circling the bush, you also realize you could stop. And if you could stop, then everything you've been doing up until now was a choice, which means all the things you didn't do were also choices. All the dreams you abandoned, all the risks you didn't take, all the authentic expressions you suppressed, those were choices too. That's a heavy realization. Much easier to keep walking in circles and pretend you don't have options. But wait, there's another layer to this shadow that's even more twisted. Because some of us don't just walk around the mulberry bush, we turn the mulberry bush into a performance art piece. I'm talking about the people who make their routines into elaborate rituals of self-optimization. The morning routine isn't just coffee and breakfast. It's meditation, journaling, cold shower, superfood smoothie, gratitude practice, and 17 different supplements taken in the precise order that some wellness influencer recommended. The workout isn't just exercise. It's a carefully tracked program with specific rep schemes and recovery protocols that must be followed exactly or the whole day is ruined. The work routine isn't just getting things done. It's a productivity system with color-coded calendars and time blocking and efficiency hacks that somehow manage to make simple tasks incredibly complicated. This is the shadow of the perfectionist walker, and it's just as much of a prison as the unconscious one. Maybe even worse, because at least the unconscious walker might accidentally stumble into something new. The perfectionist walker is so busy optimizing their circle walking technique that they never even look up to see if there might be somewhere else to go. Here's what I want you to notice about yourself as we dig into this work. What are the routines in your life that you defend as necessary, but that actually feel like prison sentences? Maybe it's the way you organize your living space. Everything has to be just so, or you can't relax. Maybe it's the way you plan your weeks. Every minute scheduled, every activity predetermined, no room for spontaneity or surprise. Maybe it's the way you handle relationships. The same patterns, the same conversations, the same conflicts played out over and over like a broken record. And here's the shadow work question. What would happen if you stopped? What are you afraid would happen if you stepped off the well-worn path and started walking in a different direction? Because I guarantee you, somewhere in your psyche is a voice telling you that if you deviate from the routine, something terrible will happen. You'll lose control. People will think you're irresponsible. You'll make the wrong choice and ruin everything. You'll discover that without the structure of the routine, you don't actually know who you are or what you want. That voice, that's your inner prison guard. And it's working overtime to keep you walking in circles around the same damn bush. But let's flip this around, because shadow work isn't complete if we only look at one side of the dynamic. Maybe you're not the type who gets stuck in routine. Maybe you're the opposite, the person who rebels against any kind of structure, who changes direction every time life starts to feel predictable, who mistakes chaos for freedom. This is its own kind of prison. The rebel walker is just as trapped as the routine walker, just in a different way. Instead of circling one bush, you're running frantically from bush to bush, never staying anywhere long enough to actually grow roots or create something meaningful. The shadow here is that you're still defining yourself in reaction to the prison yard. You're still letting the mulberry bush control your choices, just by choosing the opposite of whatever it represents. You think you're free, but you're actually just as much a prisoner as the people walking in circles. You're just wearing your chains differently. Here's what I've learned from years of doing this work. The mulberry bush isn't actually the problem. The problem is unconsciousness. The problem is walking in circles without ever asking why, or where you're going, or whether you want to be there. Some routines are beautiful. Some structures are supportive. Some repetition is nourishing and grounding, and exactly what your nervous system needs to feel safe in an uncertain world. The key is choice. The key is consciousness. The key is remembering that you're walking around the bush because you've decided to, not because you have to. And here's the really beautiful part. When you start making conscious choices about your routines, when you start walking around the bush because you genuinely want to, rather than because you've forgotten you have other options, something magical happens. The bush stops being a prison and becomes a sacred center. The circling stops being mindless repetition and becomes a moving meditation. The routine stops being about avoiding choice and becomes about making the same loving choice over and over again. So the next time you hear, "Here we go round the mulberry bush," don't just hear it as a cute children's song about morning routines. Hear it as a reminder that we all have patterns. We all have bushes we circle. We all have routines that either serve our growth or keep us trapped. But also hear it as an invitation. An invitation to wake up inside your own life. To look around and ask yourself, is this bush mine or someone else's? Am I walking this path because it leads somewhere I want to go? Or because I've forgotten I have feet? Because maybe, just maybe, the real freedom isn't about never having routines. Maybe it's about choosing them consciously, walking them mindfully, and always remembering that at any moment, you can step off the path and create a new one.